Hey guys, so I'm just gonna record this deck profile the lazy way. I just don't have time right now to edit the video properly. So I just have my fiance filming for me, so thanks to her. So anyways, branded Cyber Dragon BYSTIAL kind of had a bit of an increase in popularity lately. There was that deck profile featured on Kuma Oni's channel, I believe it's called, so I'll link that below as well. And so I've been thinking of how I would build this deck, and I've been spending a lot of time trying to make it playable. And so eventually I decided to actually make it as a blind second strategy. Originally I was trying to make this going first build, but I felt that trying to go second and keeping traditional to the Cyber Dragon roots was better. So I'll provide some replays very soon as well, but let's get right to the deck list. So starting with the Cyber Dragon package, we're gonna start off with the 3 core, just the 1 Naxer, the 1 OG Cyber Dragon, and the 1 Hers, and only 2 Emergency. And then also we do play the triple Clockwork Knight as well as the Power Bomb back package. So let's just go through a little bit in detail. So first off, the Hers and the Cyber Dragon, you only need 1 of each because really Branded Fusion makes Chimeric Rampage very easily, and you're just sending this off as your light target, and then the Fallen of Albas, of course, and then the Hers will get you the Cyber Dragon and then allows you to make that Chimeric Rampage play. The 3 core and just the 2 emergency because you don't really have that many Cyber Dragons to search off of, and also just having the Power Bomb package, which is something I usually never was a big fan of, but it does make core sort of like a 1.5, more like 1 and like 2/3 combo, because you do need a Speller Trap to discard off the Chimera, but it just provides another way. If you don't have a Branded Fusion play going, you do have another way to OTK quite easily, and this is more of a sort of like a Unga Boonga like OTK kind of strategy, which I've never really leaned towards. It was more of a grindy play style that I like, but right now with the branded stuff and the BYSTIAL stuff, it actually works quite well, and you're going to be playing a lot of Pyros spell cards to break boards and then just OTK your opponent. And Clockwork Knight also comes in quite handy for that, because it provides you a way to contact fuse away your opponent's board if you have the Cyber Dragon stuff on top of that. And that 500 attack boost as well as the 500 decrease actually comes up quite a bit in this deck. For example, even when you're going first, and this is actually something, this is a deck where I'm actually gonna try to go first post side, you know, for example, Masquerade becomes a lot harder now to get over, and you can't just get over it with BYSTIALs, for example. And also, I do play Dragoon when I'm trying to go first with the Light Hex Steel Fusion. It makes Dragoon default 3500, which already makes it hard enough to get over. And the Contact Fusion, of course, mechanic is nice, but of course, you don't have that many Cyber Dragon cards, so that contact fusing, it doesn't happen too much. The chance of you drawing both is not as high as it normally would be, but at the same time, your opponent doesn't know if you actually have Cyber Dragon in your hand. So when you start off with this, they may feel forced to actually trigger like a negate that they have because they don't want to get contact fuse. So it's a nice bait as well. Then on to the brand itself, we're playing the 2 Fallen of Albas. We do want to resolve Branded Fusion a little bit more than once, and also the Shizu Shufflers. This deck strategy, you really need to try to get to Branded Fusion, and to do that, Oluber is very nice, and Branded Opening is also very nice to try to turbo into it. And also, this is kind of nice actually, because Engrave, it can actually protect your Chimeric Rampage from card destruction, which is something we normally don't have in your regular Cyber Dragon build, aside from like Cyber Eternity Dragon that no one plays. We do have the Branded Loss. This is really nice in combination when you're trying to bring out Chimeric Rampage, because now your opponent actually cannot respond as you pop back row with Chimeric Rampage. It makes it really useful, and this sadly is the only target for with my Lubellion that I'm playing, only because I really do want to play Branded Regain, but again, this is a going second build, and I just didn't really have the room for it, as great as Regain is, because when you banish your Cyber Dragon monster with Overflow, you can actually trigger Regain and put it back to the bottom of the deck just to draw a card. We of course play the 3 Branded Fusion, such an amazing spell card. It does lock you into just fusion monsters though, that's why in Cyber Dragons, you know, you just cannot make like your Nova Infinity plays, and it does conflict, so that's why I'm not playing that at all. And it's but still just a way to really turbo into Rampage way easier than in your regular Cyber Dragon builds. I'm actually playing the 1 Theater, so I was testing out with a variety of different poly packages, such as the Frightfur package or even King of the Swamp in 1 poly. But the thing is, I found a lot of times I would have like all this poly stuff and just nothing to fuse with. But the Theater is kind of nice because it just provides a consistent way it's like if you draw it, you put it on, and in the future, as you continue your grind game, the fusion play is still there. And it's also searchable off of a Luber, which is very nice. It does have that revival effect, which can technically conflict if you have Clockwork Knight up, because it does have to be a fairy. Next, some bestial stuff. We have just the one Lubellion because as it is a going second deck, it's not good going second, but it is nice because, again, for one, we are going first post side, but even when you're going second, it's nice to start some plays with getting the Magnum, and also, like I said earlier, it just gets you into that branded loss, and going second with Chimeric Rampage, branded loss is quite good. So I'll also show you the other Bestial, so basically 3 Magnemat, 2 Druid's Worm, and the 2 Serenier. You don't want to play Branded Beast in this deck if you're playing Clockwork Knight, because Branded Beast does require you to tribute off a dragon, and with Clockwork Knight they become machines, so you cannot really resolve that, and I don't like that conflict, so I didn't play it. I really, again, as I mentioned earlier, would like to play Branded Regain for the Lubellion. Didn't play it this time around, but in a going first build that I'll also show in a different video, I do play it. On to some powerhouse spells. We are playing a lot of them. Double Talents, the Change of Heart, really good right now going second, and just some board wipes in the 3, the 1 Feather Duster, as well as the 3 Regeki and the 3 Forbidden Droplet. As much as I'd like to play Dark Ruler more, as I mentioned earlier, this is kind of like a very focused OTK strategy, so you don't want to play Dark Ruler, especially not in the main. Droplet is very nice to be able to just negate some effects and still do damage, and a lot of damage at that. And Talents, very good. And just the goal is to really either just try to clear your opponent's board and then just attack, of course, multiple times. So let's just move on to the extra deck. And before I continue, I should mention the sleeves I'm using is actually Dragon Shield, the Wraith color. I really like it. It's dual matte. It's where like it's black on the front, color on the back. Really love it. Personally, my favorite color at the moment. So starting with the extra deck, let's start with the Cyberman stuff. We do have the 1 Seeger, and this doesn't really come up too much, but it's there because when you are trying to go through that Power Bond play with the Chimera and the 1 card core, well, 1.5 card core combo, you do need that Seeger to be able to pull that off. And then the Chimeric Monsters, this one's going to come out a lot with Brand Fusion. And then I decided to play 2 Fortress still and the 1 Mega Fleet. This is just to get rid of your opponent's extra deck monster. Fortress, you could just run with 1, but I had an extra flex spot. I was trying Cyber Twin. Honestly, it was never coming up, so I decided to just play Fortress instead. The thing that's funny with Fortress, aside from contact fusing everything, is I do play Branded Banishment in the side for when I go first, and Branded Banishment can actually target this engrave to special it, and even though on its own this would be terrible, like it's just like 0 attack if you special it from engrave, but the reason why that is important is because at least that you have a certain target to bring back if you didn't have anything else, just so you can super poly your opponent's board with Branded Banishment. So that's something to keep in mind of. The branded stuff, the double Albion, the most important one in terms of your fusion plays, because it gets you to that rampage very easily. We do have the 1 Masquerade, more so when you go first, and especially this is also why we play the Theater, just so we have that play to also try to get this into the grave, which is nice. And of course we have the Lubellion, kind of goes hand in hand to also be able to summon out Mirror Jade sometimes. It's very strong. You can also send this as cost and just to get that follow-up going, and yeah, really good. The one other really powerhouse fusion monster I am playing is the Dragoon for when I'm going first. Post side, this card can be pretty hard to out for a lot of decks right now, and even though you will not have the pop and burn because you're just using Hex Seal Fusion as a substitute rather than using Dark Magician and Red Eyes, it's still very, very strong. And like I mentioned, with Clockwork Knight, default 3500 attack while your opponent loses 500 attack, so from battle it gets even harder to get over, and it's really strong. And there's another card you can actually special off of Branded Banishment, so if your opponent gets rid of it once, they're gonna have to get rid of it again. We have some other sort of like super poly targets that you would normally play, except we're not actually playing super poly, but the Branded Banishment serves as super poly. And what's interesting with Clockwork Knight is that it basically allows, or something like this to become live, because they're just all going to become machines, which is a nice interaction. And this is kind of more for outing tower like monster. Garura is just pretty nice, best super poly target at the moment. And so yeah, even Starving Venom is very, very strong right now. It's something you can also hard make with Branded Theater. And finally, onto the side, as I mentioned, against a lot of decks, I will be going first post side intentionally. So we do have the 1 Overflow that you're adding off of core, and this is why it's an easier access to pop instead of Branded Beast, because as I mentioned earlier, Branded Beast can conflict if you have Clockwork Knight. We do have that Branded Banishment that I've been talking about quite a bit. You do need to try to get that Albion Dragon into the grave, which sometimes can be a bit of an issue to try to get into. but usually hopefully you can have like your Hex Seal play and the Lubellian play to get that Albion Dragon Engrave, or maybe you can fuse it off for either Masquerade with the Theater, or worst case scenario you have the Clockwork Knight and just contact fuse away like your core and like your Albion Dragon into Fortress Dragon on turn 1 just to get this, just so you can have access to this. We do have the 1-up pointer. I just wanted kind of like a random 1-up that's a very good going first, and a pointer is sort of like the best one for that. We do have some back row removal, additional ones, because we are technically only playing Harpy's Feather Duster in the main, but again with that Chimeric Rampage line that can also pop multiple back row as well. But in case this deck can hard lose to Anti-Spell Fragrance, in case someone's citing that, you do need some more of a quick play version of that. And then some other options with Branded Fusion is that Zombie World Necro Banshee, really good against Thunder, so that's nice, and they can have a hard time outing Dragoon as well. The Light Hex Seal Fusion that I mentioned earlier, just to go into Dragoon plays post side, and also now more hand traps. We decided to add the Skullmeister just because Ishizu Grave Shufflers, that's kind of problematic with again with the strategy, and so we already have like 8 Bestials or 7, whatever it is, in the main to try to combat the elements, but you will want to add this again post side. And another nice addition is something like Droll. Again, with a deck like this that's trying to OTK, Droll is very, very impactful because it prevents your opponent from really setting anything up for that turn, right? It delays them a turn, and you might say, well, that applies for any deck. And not really, because, at least with a deck like this, you're probably OTKing your opponent, so they just won't get another turn. But if you're playing like a slow, grindy deck, Droll may not be able to do too much because all you're doing is delaying the inevitable. They're just going to have full gas the next turn anyways if you don't set up anything oppressive, and they'll just go off and do their thing anyway. So in an OTK strategy, Droll, to prevent your opponent from doing anything, is very nice. It's very strong against Flunder, assuming that they didn't have Shifter, and just against a lot of decks right now as well. Okay, so that was it for the Cyber branded Bestial strategy. Hope you found that useful. Again, as I mentioned earlier, I will be providing some replays with this deck, as well as the going first variant that I've developed. And so yeah, I'll keep you updated as I maybe make more changes to this list, and really excited to take this to future events. So that's it for the deck profile. Thank you everyone for watching, and take care.